Hey everybody, I'm Tom Vasel from the Dice Tower, and today we're talking about 5 great board games from 1998. This is part of our initiative here at the Dice Tower to talk about both new games, because we think new games are available. They're great to buy. But we also want to talk about games from yesteryear because sometimes they are worth hunting down. So, these are 5 great board games from 1998 in no particular order. We're going to start with one that just was announced a few weeks ago that they're going to be reprinting it. All Play is going to be reprinting it, and this is Through the Desert. Another Reiner Knizia game. You'll notice as we go through this little series, there's a lot of Reiner Knizia games in it. Through the Desert is a game in which you are placing camels in the desert. It is a game that is very clearly kind of has Go as its the impetus for doing this game. But on your turn, you place 2 camels, and you're making little lines of camels on the board. You're trying to section off corners of the board. You're trying to run over point tokens. You're trying to cut off your opponents. You are trying to have the longest train of different colors of the camels, trying to connect to oasis markers that are on the board. And this is, we're not going to pretend that this game's as deep as Go is. But it is a pretty deep, fun, abstract game that gives you just a couple choices in your turn. Just put out 2 camels. There's 5 colors to pick from. You can put out 2 of the same color, 2 different colors. It does not matter. But it's simple, but also that simplicity leads to some pretty deep stuff. And you can only play Go with 2 players. This allows you to play with multiple players and is very fun. It's also visually striking to see all these camels all over the board. It is a lot of fun. Then we have a game that has kind of fallen by the wayside, but is a very intriguing game called Liberte. This is from Martin Wallace. Martin Wallace is known for making historical games. He's made a lot of games that are based on history, and this one's based on the French Revolution. And in this game, there's a lot going on, and you're trying to have the most points to win the game at the end of the game. However, there's a couple alternate victory conditions. A revolution can happen over the course of the game, or a counter-revolution can happen. And if those happen, something very different, the victory conditions are very different, and so you can try to push for one of those. You might be losing the game in other ways, but push towards those. French Revolution, of course, is a fairly bloody, unfun time in history, and this is more of a view out, focus on that. And it's also a game that a lot of people don't talk about today. Martin Wallace is best known for other games like Age of Steam and things like that. But Liberte is a game that for a while really put him on the map. And if you like to see some of his style, he's so very different than other game designers, Liberte would be a good one to check out. Now we're going to jump down to a little card game called Mamma Mia. It has nothing to do with the song. It's about pizza. And in this game, players are playing cards into a stack on the table, ingredient cards, and occasionally one of their pizza recipe cards. You'll play all these cards into the stack till a certain trigger ends the round. You'll then flip the stack over. You start revealing cards, ingredient cards, and when a pizza card comes up, if there's enough ingredients to make that pizza, that person scores a point. And whoever gets the most points wins. It is a memory game of sorts, but it's also kind of a little bit of a push your luck. It's so simple, but it's also a game that I just described it to you. Basically, that's how the game plays. But it's hard to kind of grok it in your head. But once you play it, it plays really well. They made a follow-up to this game called Solo Mio, which was essentially the same game. But hey, you can combine them. But this is a game that I still will bring out at conventions. I'll be like, hey, have you folks ever played this one? And I always play it a little bit just to show everyone how it works. Then we play it for real. And it's the laughter, the fun that people have. I think it's really worth checking out. That's Mamma Mia. Then let's go back to Dr. Reiner Knizia with Excape. Kind of a weird title here. One of the most famous dice games in the world is Can't Stop from Sid Sackson, as you roll dice. This was kind of Reiner Knizia's answer to Can't Stop. In this game, you roll 2 dice, and one of the dice has a 7 on the side, but they both have X's on the sides. And when you roll those dice, it will make a 2-digit number. Anywhere from, I think the lowest you can roll would be 10 all the way up to 76. And then you'll place those, you can re-roll, but when you re-roll, if you roll an X, you bust, and then your turn's over. You can re-roll as much as you want, always pushing that luck. But you put these dice on the board, and you put them on a number, and next turn, that's how many points you'll get. You move your token on a track, and the first person to get to a certain number of points wins. But If someone places a higher number lower than you on the track, then your dice go away before your turn comes back. So that push your luck aspect is there, and it is just so much fun. This game to me has a lot of shouting, a lot of yelling. The funky dice kind of add to it. There's certainly luck in it because, well, there's dice, but it is a good, solid family game. And then finally, the last great game from 1998 I want to talk about is Imaginiff. Imaginiff is a party game that says, if Bob was a cereal, which of these cereals would he be? It then lists 5 cereals, and everyone picks one. Now, there are games that are very much like this, where players write down the answers, but I find that those games usually devolve into something that is simply too mean, and it's just an unfun thing all around. This picks things that are kind of mild. I'm not going to get mad that people voted for me being Cheerios instead of, Kix. Although, please don't. Kix is a terrible cereal. But the game has that funness to it. It's this game from Buffalo Games, and it's still around in different forms. And I think party games are pretty solid, and this one works really well. So those are 5 great board games from 1998. As bonus content, my favorite video game to come out in 1998 is Baldur's Gate. For a while, people wanted a Dungeons and Dragons game on the computer, and they had different various ones. They weren't particularly good. Baldur's Gate was really well done, as you had a different group of people, and in fact, we still talk about some of the characters from Baldur's Gate, and you would go around, and it was real-time fighting, but you could always freeze the action and say, you do this, you do this, you do that, and it was using D&D rules for a lot of it, with the leveling up systems. It's still a fantastic, brings in the Dungeons and Dragons stuff, has epic moments, really cool video game. And my favorite movie from 1998 is The Truman Show. Jim Carrey, known for his nonsensical performances in many movies like Liar, Liar, etc. In this one turns in still a Jim Carrey performance in many ways, but also kind of straight, where a character is in a simulation and doesn't realize it. I love the concept. I think it's really well executed. It has a great ending, good acting all around. It's just a lot of fun. Anyway, it's my favorite stuff from 1998. Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower, folks. I'm Tom Vasel. We'll see you next time.